which would give us assurance that he has the money. If he's not able to pay it, how does he give it back to us? And unless someone from the county can answer that, he wasn't able to answer that for us. I've spoken to him. I've spoken to Michael Picker, who's his senior vice president. They had come up with a way where they can be able to help us alleviate our concerns. But there is Arena Code, the actual entity that is making the deal with the county, has not, it's, I don't want to say it's a dummy account, but it's an entity that basically does not have any assets or any ability to liquidate assets, to have any function, monetary function at all. It's basically an entity that's the middleman between the Islanders and the county. And at the end of the day, if you were to look up how much Arena Code has, and read through this stuff, don't take my word for it, read through this stuff. If you take a look at how much money Arena Code actually has in its bank account, it's zero. It's not. It's an entity that has no line of credit, no substantial backing that can give to it to ensure that the county gets back their money. Now, the way the proposal is written, that Mr. Wong would basically give us the revenue, because they're estimating that it's going to be $235 million. They're estimating it's going to be $235 million the new Coliseum is going to generate. Now, this is where I get into, not to be partisan, but this is where I have a problem. Currently, that facility generates less than $100 million. About 98, roughly. $98 million, the way the facility is currently configured. It is projected under the new facility, it's going to generate $235 million. Now, how they get to that point? Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. How they get to that is they believe that they will build luxury suites and club seats. Obviously, there will be more venues, more concerts, more trade shows, more family shows, Sesame Street, so on and so forth. And that's how they will get from the $98 million to the $235 million. That's what
conjecture. It's just hopeful.
It's hopeful, right? Well, their analysis actually was done in the Camoin report, which I guess you can get a copy of the Camoin report on Islands.com.
I need to get
on our website too. County website, you can get a copy of the Camoin report. And that Camoin report, if you believe it, that Camoin report talks about some of the information that I was talking about. But yes, it's, from your standpoint, unless they can validate how they get to those actual numbers, it's conjecture from that standpoint. Just so you know, this document also, if you turn to pages, not numbered, you go to the risk on this particular page because we brought up this particular item. This is actually, again, this is by independent budget review. It is not done by my office. It's not done by Republicans, Democrats. It's done by an independent office that did an independent analysis, not hired by anybody, not hired by myself, not hired by the county executive, not hired by anybody. And one of the things they talk about in the additional revenues is one of the risks, is that it should be noted that 27% of the Camoin gross revenues and 23% of the Islanders' projected revenues are a function of 7 additional revenue categories: catering, executive suite fees, club seats, premium, blah, blah, blah. What they're basically saying is that all this stuff, 27% of what we're projecting is brand new stuff. And from our standpoint, there's nothing substantial. That's basically, I don't want to interpret that. You guys can read your own interpretation, but you can see it for yourself exactly.
Well, when I asked as the Kevan's lawyer, like, what does this risk really mean? That means that there's nothing.
Please speak up.
I'm sorry. When I asked as the lawyer for Kevan and the legislators, what does this risk really mean to us? It means that there's nothing that can prove that they can actually make that revenue. So they're guessing that that revenue can occur, but that there's nothing backing up that revenue can. That's why it's a risk.
That's why it's a risk.
So there is a contingency. So then what would they do with all of this stuff? I mean, in City Field at Yankee Stadium when they had all the, it's going to be great, but if people can't afford to pay those things, then they're they're sitting there. So is there literally a mathematical contingency for like the revenue doesn't come in, and then we're looking at another referendum?
If the revenue doesn't come in, right, what falls into place is Mr. Wong will then give $14 million in a guarantee from Arena Code towards the debt service of that particular year. But this, and then if you look deeper beyond that, okay, what if Mr. Wong can't fulfill his guarantee of $14 million.
Right.
Exactly. Unless I'm answering that wrong. I don't know if you guys, unless I'm answering that wrong. Whether he sells the team in 2 years or 10 years, the team he sells, the person he sells it to, is under the agreement for whatever remainder of time. So that person that comes in is under the agreement to still pay the $14 million, is still required to share the sales tax revenues of the $5 million. They're still under those restrictions as if they signed the deal themselves today with Mr. Wong and the Allen. So from that standpoint, to be fair, the county, if we believe that this deal is a good deal, whether it changes hands to Mr. Wong or to Mr. whoever, it won't make a difference.
My name is Henry Howard, and I must disclose that I am a consultant to the Lighthouse Project.
Want to use the mic?
To the Nassau Coliseum Project.
Some time.
Sure.
Apologies for being late. I've got a previous meeting, but since the legislator did mention my name, I wanted to say and disclose to you all that I am a consultant to the Nassau County project. As the legislator has said, whoever buys an outlet will have the same obligation as the contract says. You committed to stay here 30 years. That's my understanding. But I heard someone say you're loaning the money to the outlet. The money, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that the money that's being asked for the taxpayer to pay is for a building that we, the taxpayer, own. The property as well as the building is owned by we, the taxpayer. And we could not afford to maintain it. That's why this came all about. It came about because we could not maintain the building, and those of you who've been there recently, you'll find that the building's in bad shape. And I understand that the owner of the outlets have a contract that is to stay here for another 3 years, in 2015. So you ask why the urgency, and you talk about him reloaning him the money. We actually asked between the county executives, see some of his people from wrong, please correct me, anybody in the room that find me speaking unlawfully or incorrectly, please bring it to my attention. May I? Okay. That's my understanding that the island is owned by Mr. Warren. That's true. But the Coliseum is owned by us, the taxpayers. And he said that the memorandum that the county executive and him put out was to borrow $400 million to build a new Coliseum. And I'm quite sure much of this stuff has already been disclosed, much of it been in the paper. But if we don't build a new Coliseum, it means that the island will leave here. And it means that whatever tax that is being generated now will no longer be available to offset some of the tax. That's my understanding. Okay? Now, the islanders and Dr. Kaplan said any developer, and I've been in business 50 years on this island.
You say that the islanders will leave. Now, are the islanders in such great demand that they can have their choice of where they want to go to? Are there any bids already out for the islanders? Has Mr. Wong been approached to say, well, listen, if your deal doesn't go through, I want the group, I want the team?
But let me say this to you. I'm not speaking with Mr. Warren.
No,
I'm speaking
could you answer the question?
He
Are
said,
the islanders in demand? It's my understanding that they are not a very good team. And it's also my understanding that one does not put out heavy money against a no team. Okay, not a good team. And where would they go?
Let me say this to you. I had a private meeting. Let me finish that.
I'm listening.
You want me to say something that might be helpful to all of us? I will say it. Mr. Warren and I have been doing business. I did limousine business with him and different business with him over the period of some 25 years.
Excuse me, you said you and Mr. Wong had a meeting?
Come on,
let's backtrack. I appreciate Henry trying to empathize. Let's try to stay on track. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going back. Whether the island
Yes, you do.
That I don't know. I have no idea. Yes.
Absolutely.
Can I just make a statement? They had plenty of other meetings that everybody was invited to, and I'm almost feeling like I don't get to hear what you have to say. So I really would appreciate it if we could hear what you have to say.
I agree, Robin. I agree, and we're getting to that point. But I think that what I'm trying to do, and I hope most people recognize this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you as much information so that you go to, which doesn't always require just me giving you the information. It's getting both sides. So I'm actually glad that the county executive has people here today because you get both sides. So when you walk in, it sounds like you guys, some of you have your minds made up already. It's what it sounds like you got a mind made up already. But for those of you who do not have your minds made up, it gives you an opportunity to hear the issues for themselves and hear people debate it back and forth. But Mary Ellen,
Let Mary Ellen go.
Mary Ellen and Mary Ellen.
What I was wondering, do we have the actual wording of the referendum? I haven't seen it.
I think it's in the backup. I think it's in the backup. Hold on 1 second.
In the package.
It's actually in the back. I'm pretty sure, Mary. Hold on 1 second. Here it is. Here it is. I have it.
I just want to just ask the county
This first paragraph?
Yeah.
That's the explanation. No. You're talking about the word that you see in the voting booth?
Yeah.
Not just the policy.
Two questions. Well, we only have two questions. One, just a comment. I think the mistake that we all started to make back from ground zero is that we were calling it the Islanders. It's not the Islanders, it's the Coliseum property. It's not only going to benefit the Coliseum, the Islanders, it's going to benefit us as Nassau County residents also. So if we can get that mindset out that it's not the Islanders, I think maybe it'll pass a little bit and it'll be a little bit easier to swallow. My other question is, the Nassau Coliseum right now, the Nassau Veterans Coliseum right now, is in such disrepair. What? How are we going to know that it's going to be maintained, that it doesn't get into the repair that it is now, that the National Hockey League doesn't want us there, you know, the Islanders there? Where again is that guarantee that this is going to be maintained?
New facility.
The new facility is going to be maintained. This is in such disrepair.
Well, the county will still own the building.
Yeah, well, the county owns it now.
I agree. And to be honest with you, if the county, if the Islanders could take the county to task, if they really wanted to, because within their agreement that they have with SMG and the SMG has with the county, we are supposed to provide a top-notch facility. So that facility is part of the time. I'm not going to lie with it. But that being said, it will follow the same exact agreement that we are responsible to maintain and obligated to maintain that.
Being tugged on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
The first $500,000 in capital projects, which would be to repair the Coliseum, would be paid by Wang. But because it's such a big Coliseum and it could far exceed that, the rest of that would be paid by the taxpayer, the town, and the county.
Good thing I have it. I don't know. I think Evangelist Benjamin was first, and then Tracy, and then Brandon.
My name is Evangelist Benjamin. I am the executive director of our Leadership Center. Let me say from the very beginning, I'm inclined myself as an individual to support the building of the Coliseum, but not for the reasons that other people may think. As a member of the African American community, I'm not into hockey. So it really don't make no difference about the hockey thing. What makes a difference to me is in this community when it comes down to jobs. We want to make sure that we are represented in terms of the jobs. What assurance have they given us that, because they're going around, I've been at several meetings, they're going around speaking specifically to the minority community, but what kind of assurance are they giving us that when the jobs are developed, and I hear about the 3,500 jobs that's going to be developed, but that's meaningless if we're not going to get a job. In the African American community, there's over 45% of us that are out of work. The national statistics are something like 9.2. What kind of assurance are are they going to give us, and again, let me repeat what I'm saying. I'm inclined to support this project simply because it brings in job opportunity for the local community. What are they giving us to assure that that's going to transpire into something?
Let's talk about the jobs. Thank you, Benjamin, for being here tonight. The job component is into two different segments. The first segment you have to look at is the construction work that comes with the actual construction of the Coliseum, which is temporary work from a standpoint of being at the Coliseum. What you would want to envision is hoping that whether it be young people or old people, whoever, men and women alike, all different races and ethnicities, anybody you see fit, would basically be able to get work at that site, become a member of that union, and then continue to work with that union, not just at the Coliseum, but at other sites as well. Does that happen? Your guess is as good as mine. But that's the construction side. Then you have the actual permanent jobs that will come with a new Coliseum. Quite frankly, some of the jobs are going to be with people that are currently there. People there that are there on part-time basis, per diem basis, they're already working at the Coliseum. So the question comes that if we have to do more venues, and obviously it's a large facility, do we bring in more people? Yes, and those jobs become permanent. But what the county executive is also talking about, he's talking about permanent jobs that can be created in the vein that it will be done with the development of the Coliseum, meaning that there will be a trickle-down effect into other areas. So these are all questions. There is no guarantee. I'm not going to give you any guarantee that we're going to build a Coliseum and then there's going to be X jobs that are going to come around. I can't give you that guarantee. That's not an assurance. No one can give you that assurance. It's impossible.
Maybe I just comment one more time. I'm so sorry. I know so many people waiting. But my thing is this. So many people in the community are taking training to pre-apprenticeship programs. They get into OSHAs and all of that kind of thing. And you're asking the community to... I know you're not. But you're asking the community to commit to $400 million. And you're saying, well, in the process of that, we're not sure we're going to give you a job. We're not sure we're going to take a young person off the streets and help them out. But we want you to give us $400 million. It's not a strong argument. I do believe, and I've been talking to Mr. Holly, that we'll get some job, but we need to have something to say not after the building is built, because construction jobs pay a pretty decent dollar. We need a direct, if you're asking us to support, if they're asking us to support, we need something tangible to say, you're not going to take our money and run. That you're going to give us an opportunity to go to work, to get a decent job, to earn a decent pay. And even if it's temporary, right now, if I can work for 2 weeks, I'll take it.
I know there's other people, and I know Reverend Elliott, I'm sorry, Dr. Elliott believes he can answer your question, so I'm going to ask you guys to talk directly towards that point, because I know we got some questions from Brandon Ray, and I know Tracy got questions as well, and I want to get to everybody's questions, because by the time we turn around, we'll be here at 10 o'clock tonight. So if you guys can talk directly, unless, is there anyone else that has a question to that point?
To that point.
A couple other people, so maybe, if you don't mind, if it's possible, you can maybe talk to those individuals directly, and then that way, I can just, at least, I want to get to these two questions. If we have time, I'll let Dr. Elliott address it through the mic. But if not, just to know that I believe, Hendrik, you had a question, and I believe Badger's Benjamin had a question. But let me just get to these two people, because I know you guys have been patient. So, Brandon, and then Tracy. No, Tracy. Tracy.
My question is, I'm kind of confused with this. If you people are like, I'm kind of confused about this situation in terms of if the taxpayers are going to own the Coliseum. If we're paying this tax revenue, why does he have the right to sell it and make all these decisions? And nothing has been even planned or discussed with the taxpayers to after all this has been worked out and done. You know, it's like it seems to me we're paying for it, but he's actually the owner because he can sell it. We can't go and make
He can sell the islands.
Okay, he said.
Not the arena.
Okay, that's why I want to know what you're saying. And then also, in terms of the bond itself, what kind of interest rates are you talking about? Because it seems to me, you know, it's hard for me to just be $58 for the next 30 years. Is it month? Are you talking about yearly, monthly? What are you talking about?
The interest rates would be based off of what we're currently projecting, you know, currently what we're doing on our regular finances. Right now, some of you may or may not know, the county right now, all of our financing needs to go through the Nassau Internal Finance Authority. That's an acronym for that is NIFA. NIFA in itself is a control board, which was imposed on the county going back to the days of the lobby. So it's not under Swazi or began, it was going back to the lobby. The control board allows us to get a certain level of financing better than what the county can do on its own. So from that standpoint, the financing is in most terms tends to be reasonable. But at the same time, if the county does not show a great portfolio in terms of its other finances, we could be downgraded. And a downgrade would in turn mean higher interest rates. So that's a valid point. A lot of that can happen. I don't know when we plan to go to the market for that particular stuff, but that's a valid point. We don't want higher rate. But
we don't want it, but it's reality because Nassau County owes so much and they judge that when you don't produce your own money, you get higher loans. It's just like when a person who borrows debt personally, they owe more debt, their interest rate is higher because you're higher risk.
That's true.
That doesn't go away.
Good evening, I'm Randy right up to that said. I'm going to ask a few economic development questions, kind of to piggyback off for their rapid fire kind of bonds. It's going to be quick. How many households was this $58 per year projected off of? What is it about a household in the county that's projected off of?
Well, roughly there's about 478 parcels, 478,000 parcels in Nassau County.
All right.
But it's hard.
And that was just over the 400. Well, let's just say that. It's going to get more quick.
There's different entities too. There's commercial, there's utilities. The $58 number is an average number. Not every property in Nassau County is not.
It could be lower.
Correct. Yeah, it could be.
Now that's what
it could be. Well, no, it could be high. So some people whose properties are worth more. If you have a bigger property, yes, it could be worth more.
And so that's just the 400 million. That's not the total. That's not with the interest rate on top of it, right? Like how much?
It's 800 million.
That 800 million, that $58 per year is about 800 million or
800 million. The 877.
Okay. I don't know.
The 877 is what we're going to pay back over the life of the bond.
Yes.
The $58 that you're going to be asked to pay, and granted, that's on an annual basis.
That's just principal, I'm saying.
Yes. That's not $58 and then it goes away. That's $58 that comes every year.
That's the principal, I'm saying.
That covers the principal and the interest.
Oh, it does. Okay.
But it also, you should use the $58 number, not to the 877, but yes, to $26 million a year we pay back against it.